Okay. So you can go ahead and do roll call, and then I will read some guidelines just on handling the meeting through the Zoom meeting.
Okay, I'll call roll. Allison Dishinger?
I was muted. Here. Allison Dishinger here.
Okay. Marta Schwartz Calderon?
I'm here.
Galena Miller? Does not appear to be here. Todd Wyan? Does not appear to be here. And Paula Schumacher, I am present. We have 3 of 5.
This is Sherry Riedemann, City Clerk. It looks like Board Member Wyatt is just joined.
Yes, I agree. Hi, Todd. Could you say hello?
Hello.
Sherry, you wanted to go over a few things?
Yes, so I'm going to provide just a few procedural reminders for the virtual meeting. So the board, you all just need to remember to state your name and your title each time you speak. And when a motion is made, you need to make sure that you state that clearly. The board chair will need to, after a motion is made and seconded, call on each board member individually to provide their vote. Then announce whether the motion carried and the count of the vote. Any city staff that is present must also state their name and title each time they speak. When the chair calls for public comment on an item, if we have any members of the public present for comment, those individuals participating via Zoom should use the raised hand function to indicate they wish to provide comments. The raise hand function may appear in different places on your Zoom menu, depending on the device you are using and which version of Zoom you have. And again, that is just for members of the public comment who wish to provide public comment. Individuals will be called upon by name in the order they appear on the meeting host screen. When you are called on, please unmute your listening device and state your name before speaking. The regular 3-minute time limit will apply. The board chair will then call for in-person public comment for those without access to technology options. Staff present will direct you to the podium to speak, following social distancing and safety protocols, and the regular 3-minute time limit will apply. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. The first order of business that we have is to approve the minutes of the last meeting. I've pulled those up, and those are from October 16th. Does anybody have any comments on those? I'll just wait for either you to make a comment or if somebody wants to make a motion to approve them as they are.
I move to approve the minutes. Todd Wyant.
Member. Do we have a second? Paula Schumacher, chair.
Allison Dishinger, board member, second.
The Paula Schumacher, chair. The meeting minutes from October 16th have been approved as are with no changes. The second item that...
Excuse me, sorry, this is Sherry Riedemann, City Clerk. There was a motion and a second, so,
Oh, the
you'll need
results
to-
of it?
yeah, you'll need to call on each board member, even those that made the motion and seconded, for them to state aye or nay.
I'm sorry.
What?
So we need an aye from the person who made the motion
Todd Wyatt, aye.
and a motion and a sign in from the person, an aye from the person who seconded the motion.
Allison Dishinger, aye.
Sherry, what else did you need?
You'll just call on each board member to provide their vote. So you'll also need to call on,
So instead of just, so we need a, I see what you're saying.
and then you'll state your vote.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Yes, I get it. Marta,
Marta Schwartz, Vice Chair, aye.
Paula Schumacher, Chair, aye. That motion carries with a count of 4-0. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any public comment?
This is Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. It doesn't appear that we have anyone on Zoom or here at City Hall that, to provide comment.
Okay, we will move to the next item, which is agenda items. The first agenda item we have is receive update, wait, sorry, wrong. Let me close that, that's the old agenda. Election of chair and vice chair. Do we have,
Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. I just wanted to give a little background on this real quick before you move forward. So the bylaws state that the board shall elect officers at the first regularly scheduled meeting of each year. So the current chair and vice chair were elected in May of 2019, and those were not full terms. So there were no new those were partial terms, no new appointments in 2020. So this would be the first meeting of that next year, and so you all would need to make appointments for this next year term. And you would want to do that as two separate motions. One would be to appoint to the chair, and then the second motion to appoint the vice chair.
Paula Schumacher, thank you, Sherry. As far as discussion, if anybody has any discussion, I don't mind keeping this role or giving this role up. If anybody has any ideas, feel free to speak.
I would be very happy for you to keep the role if you're willing to do it.
Todd, member at large, says that.
Todd Wyatt.
Marta Schwartz, Vice Chair, I would be happy, Paula, if you kept it as well.
Allison Dishinger, board member. Paula, you're doing a great job. So if you're happy doing this, I'm happy to have you.
Paula Schumacher, Chair. Thank you all for that confidence in me. Do we want to talk about, we can take the votes in just a bit. Do we want to talk about the vice chair? Marta, as a current holder, do you have any feelings about that?
Marta Schwartz, Vice Chair. I am, if somebody else would like to take the role, I'm very happy to give it up. Or if you all do not want to, I'm fine with keeping it. So, but I willingly give it up if somebody else would like to be vice chair. It hasn't really been that taxing, so if you would like to just be vice chair, that would be, and it would do you some good, that would be awesome.
Allison Dishinger, board member. Marta, you're also doing a great job, and I love having you in a leadership position. So if it's no hassle for you, I'd love to have you be vice chair for the next year. Thank you.
Todd Wyatt, and I feel the same way, Marta. So if you're willing to do it, I think you're doing a great job. So.
Paula Schumacher, Chair. Marta, I agree with everybody, and I feel so much more confident having you in the number 2 chair.
Thanks, everybody. This is Marta, Vice Chair.
Paula Schumacher, Chair. I think we need a motion to vote on who we want to be our chair.
Allison Dischinger, board member. I move Paula Schumacher remains our chair for this advisory board for the coming year.
Todd Wyant, I second that motion.
Paula Schumacher, Chair. I'm now going to call for a vote from everybody. Allison Dischinger, what is your vote?
Aye.
Todd Wyant, what is your vote?
Aye.
Marta, what is your vote?
Aye.
Paula Schumacher, what is your vote? Aye. For the request on the new chair, the vote carries for Paula Schumacher, 4 in favor, 0 opposed. The next item we have is to vote on the vice chair. Do we have a motion?
I move that Marta Schwartz continues her in the position as vice chair. Todd Wyant.
Allison Dischinger, board member. I second that Marta Schwartz remain in the position of vice chair for the coming year.
Paula Schumacher, Chair, will now take a vote on that. Marta Schwartz, how do you vote on this motion?
Aye.
Allison Dischinger, how do you vote on this motion?
Aye.
Todd Wyant, how do you vote on this motion?
Aye.
Paula Schumacher votes aye. The motion carries 4-0 against. Congratulations. The next item on the agenda is state regulation of body work recommended for the City Commission legislative priority statement. I'll open that for comments.
Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. So at the last meeting, there was some discussion about adding a conversation, prioritizing state regulation of body work at the state level, adding that to the legislative priority statement. And the board had asked for information on what exactly is a legislative priority statement, what that entails. And so we're just gonna, we're gonna share the screen so you can kind of see what the 2021 legislative priority statement looks like. So each year, the City of Lawrence adopts a statement of its legislative priorities prior to the beginning of the state's legislative session. The statement is provided to our Douglas County legislative delegation. The statement also guides input provided to legislators and committees as needed regarding legislation that is introduced during the session. A draft of our legislative priority statements was submitted to the City Commission in November, and then in December, the City Commission adopted the legislative priority statement that you see in front of you.
Paula Schumacher. Sherry, could you scroll down?
Sure. This is Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. Just for a little additional context, at that meeting, since it's been a few months back, Holly Krebs had asked to provide some information on this, state regulation of body work and where that stands. And as part of that update, I believe you all had asked sort of what options you have for supporting that. And I had provided the information that the city commission does do a legislative priority statement each year, but you wanted to have a better understanding of what that looks like before you ask them to add something like that to their priority statement. I also will say that obviously they've already adopted that, so we couldn't add anything to it this year, but it might give you some context for if you want to be considering that for next year's statement.
Paula Schumacher, Chair. Do we want to kind of put this on the agenda in the future where we give ourselves enough time to come back to this? Or is there anything we feel we can do about it now?
Allison Dishinger, board member, I think it would be good for all of us to review this document and then perhaps consider if we think there needs to be something put in this document for 2022, continue to talk about that through the rest of the year before the fall when the city will write another one of these.
Paula Schumacher, Chair. So Sherry, you said we can get this document, or could you send it out to us all, email?
Sherry Riedemann, City Clerk. Yes, we can provide this to you. It's also on the city's website, so it's accessible to the public. I will also say, I think one of the questions was how exactly, the board would go about adding something like this, and it would just be something that you would, in a meeting, as a group, sort of make a motion to ask the commission to add it, and then we would have staff put it on their draft as a recommendation from this board, and then the commission would either include it or not include it when they approved the final statement.
Paula Schumacher, Chair. Sherry, what kind of timing is that? When would we need to have our draft statement ready?
So,
if we have one.
This year, the draft was given to the commission in November, and then they adopted it in December, and that's generally the timeline. I apologize, Sherry Riedemann, City Clerk. That's the timeline that they use every year, because like this year's session is Monday, the 2021 legislative session starts on Monday, January 11th, and it generally lasts 90 days, and it's the same time frame every year. So I would think at your October meeting, you would want to, at the latest, you would want to have that done in a meeting so that the staff that drafts it's the city attorney's office generally drafts the legislative priority statement and presents that to the commission. And so in October, you would want to, have included a motion that you want to ask them to add that. And you could have some language that you want, but also, staff and the commission may tweak the language. You may not, you don't necessarily have to have the statement drafted, just your desire to have them support legislation at the state level. You could really do it either way.
Marta Schwartz, Vice Chair. Would this depend on, I've read Holly's statement a few times about what's going on in the state level. Should we kind of also be paying attention to that, because that might actually affect what we want to say in this, our legislative priority statement?
Paula Schumacher, Chair. I think that's a really good idea, because things could change by the time October rolls around. Paula Schumacher, Chair. I guess I'm wondering how we want to handle this. For now, do we want to just say that we'll review this and then talk about it as an instrument, how applicable it is at our next meeting? Or wait, push it further down the road?
Marta Schwartz, Chair. I think it might be an ongoing conversation, so definitely having a chance to really look at this and see the wording about it, and then coming up with our own, our own pieces to it, like we've done with a lot of things with the Bodywork wording. And then, if somebody has something to say in our next meeting, or perhaps maybe March would be a good time. Will give us 2 months to really look at this. to really see what, just to start kind of getting some ideas out there, and then being able to draft it as we see how legislation rolls out on the state level.
Allison Dischinger, board member, I think we need some time to look at this actual document that the city's put out for 2021, like Marta said. And if we've kept up on the state level, there are some changes that are going to happen. And it has been suggested even that cities may also retain licensure in addition to state licensure of some sort. So we'll just need to keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening at the state level. So when if we do submit a statement, it's up to date and is supportive of our profession.
Hollis Schumacher, Chair, do we want a motion then just to keep this on our agenda items? Or do you want more? Go ahead.
This is Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. If there's a specific time frame you want this listed on an agenda, you can just provide direction to me to add that to a future agenda. You don't necessarily need a motion to bring this item back.
Paula Schumacher, Chair. Thank you, Sherry. Let's just leave it on the agenda going forward, and we can discuss it or push it each meeting as we need to. But it'll keep it in front of us then. The next agenda item is provide direction on resources available to the bodywork community in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. I open that for discussion.
So this is Marta Schwartz, Vice Chair. I did a little research this week and looked at the things that was helpful for me as far as reopening. I know we all have a lot of different feelings about reopening, and it doesn't have to be about, how do I want to say this? It doesn't have to be about putting our stamp of approval on any of this. I also know that this board is about licensing. It's not necessarily about health regulation. But I just thought, I'm not sure where to put it at all, but I just looked up a few things that were helpful. I found the Douglas County Health Department's information, although it's good, it's very general and not necessarily helpful to body workers. I also found some things on the amtamassage.org. Their COVID standards were good. Their advice was really clear, and it definitely worked for massage therapists. abmp.com had some great tips too, and a lot of videos out there that people can go to. And then also possibly if somebody wanted, joining the Lawrence Bodywork and Massage Therapist Face Group. Not everybody's on Facebook, but I found that to be one of the most helpful and supportive ways to decide how I was going to go about this. So my idea was to put this all together, and I don't know if it can be part of the city bodywork page. I don't know if that's okay to do, but it would be a resource if it was okay for board members to have, and you can just shoot somebody contacts you, and you could just shoot this like, here's a page. I'm not endorsing any of this, but here's an idea of how to do it. So we feel like we're helping our members not only learn how to get licensed, but also how to keep safe. And that's something that we can do for the health of our community. And that's all I got about it.
Allison Dischinger, board member. I've actually put 2 links in the chat to everybody that are those resources Marta was talking about from ABMP and AMTA. So those would be the 2 of the websites that we could include as general information on massage therapist resources for COVID-19. I would also suggest that we link directly to the Douglas County Health Department if we're going to create a page like that under our advisory board for people to come to on the web.
So this is Sherry Reederman, City Clerk. I just asked the chair if I could just make we did have a staff kind of report on this, if I could, before you continue conversation, if I could go ahead and provide that. At the October meeting, the vice chair had discussed the COVID-19 pandemic and how that impacted the Bodywork. And then the board asked staff to bring back options for providing guidance to the Bodywork community. So we reviewed the code and obviously consulted the city attorney's office. And in speaking with the city attorney's office, and there are no provisions that give this board the authority to provide guidance to the Bodywork community on this issue. Individual board members may respond to inquiries from the community as long as they are not acting in their capacity as a Bodywork advisory board member or on behalf of the city.
Marta Schwartz, Vice Chair. Thank you so much, Sherry. That makes it very clear to us, and I really appreciate that direction.
Paula Schumacher, Chair. I think during that discussion, did we also talk about maybe making these kinds of sources available to the health department so that if they got questions, they could help Bodywork professionals find more specific information?
Marta Schwartz, Vice Chair. Yes, we did, Paula. I have not gotten that far to do that. I haven't explored that yet.
Okay.
That's a good idea, but I'll need to explore that a little bit more.
Well, Schumacher, Chair, so from what Sherry says, it sounds like really it's not in our purview to be able to add any of this. So I don't think we have any motions on this really, except for as individuals, if we want to share that information as widely as possible to help the Bodywork community. Okay, the next agenda item is the meeting calendar.
This is Sherry Riedemann, City Clerk. We wanted to go ahead and put this, since we're starting a new year, go ahead and give you all the opportunity to look at how the meeting time is working for you in terms of the frequency of meetings, the day, the time, that type of thing, just to give you the opportunity to have discussion. A little background, considering, that this board is provided, the charge is to provide technical expertise and guidance to the city clerk and the city commission regarding the enforcement of Chapter 6, and then also to hear appeals. Just to remind you, that you really have the ability to, if you look at whether you need to continue to meet monthly, or if you want to do that more on a quarterly basis. Special meetings can always be added as needed. Just to kind of start that dialogue to see how you want to handle this next year moving forward. The first year, obviously, with the regulation being new, there was a lot to consider. If you still feel that's the case and want to meet monthly, obviously, that's at your discretion. We decided it'd be a good time for you all to have that conversation.
Marta Schwartz, Vice Chair. I would like to meet quarterly.
Allison Ditchinger, board member. I think that would work for the speed that this board moves at.
Todd Wyatt, I agree. It doesn't seem like we have a lot of pressing issues at the moment, and we can always do a special meeting if something comes up.
Paula Schumacher, Chair. I'm fine with that. Because we can always have a special meeting, right, if something comes up. Do we need a motion, Sherry?
This is Sherry Riedemann, City Clerk. Yes, and I would ask that if you want to, if the day, the time, if all of that works for you, it would be good to include that in your motion. Currently, you all are meeting the third Friday of the month at 2 p.m. If you want to keep that, then it would be quarterly on the third Friday of the month at 2 p.m., something like that. But again, you can always, if you want to make any changes to that, this would be.
Paula Schumacher, Chair. And then would our first meeting be in March? We're not going to go to like April because we met in January and throw off the quarters?
So if our first meeting was in January, yeah, what did we say? It would be January and then April, September, July, and then October, not September. And then you'd meet again in January.
Allison Dishinger, board member. I've got the dates if you want to jot them down. January 15th, Friday. April 16th, Friday. July 16th, Friday. October 15th, Friday. Those would be, according to my little calendar here, once a quarter, if that, I hope I counted correctly.
Yes.
Marta Schwartz, Vice Chair. Meeting on Fridays at 2 would be great. And those dates that Allison stated work fine for me.
This is Sherry Riedemann, City Clerk. I would just, that's great. I would just suggest that in your motion, instead of giving specific dates, that it is the third Friday of the months that you're meeting quarterly, just because that's easier for the public. I think the direction is easier than a specific date. And then that way you could, that is not just your meeting time for this year. You could adjust that at any time, but this would be when this board meets moving forward until you change that.
This is Paula Schumacher, Chair. Does anybody have a motion for changing our meeting time?
Marta Schwartz, Vice Chair. I motion.
Gotta do the whole thing.
Wyatt, I second. Sorry.
Paula Schumacher, Chair. I'm sorry, Marta. I think you're gonna have to say the whole thing like I.
Marta Schwartz, Vice Chair. I motion to move our meetings to quarterly meetings, Friday at 2 p.m.
The third Friday at 2 p.m. Do we have a second? Paula Schumacher, Chair.
Wyatt, I second.
I will ask for votes. Allison Dishinger,
Aye.
Marta Schwartz Calderon,
Aye.
Todd Wyatt,
Aye.
Paula Schumacher, aye. The motion passes on a vote of 4-0. The next item on our calendar is new business. Does anybody have any new business? Paula Schumacher, Chair. It does not appear as though we have any new business. Wave your hands quickly if you want to capture my attention because your mute button isn't working. All right, the next item is the adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Marta Schwartz, Vice Chair. I motion to adjourn.
Wyatt, I second the motion.
Paula Schumacher, Chair. We'll take a vote on that motion. Allison Dishinger, how do you vote?
Aye.
Marta Schwartz Calderon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Todd Wyatt, how do you vote?
Aye.
Paula Schumacher, myself, votes aye. The motion passes 4-0. We are adjourned. Sherry, thank you for all of your patience with me.
Oh, no, you were great. Thank you.